Hello everybody, this is Julie Zommers from Truly Made You Deeply Happy, and welcome Ali to On the Couch this week. What's been happening for you?
Hello Julie, how are you?
Good, I think we've got a bit of a delay. So this is Alison Monaghan from happysoul.com joining me today. And today I thought what we might do, Ali, is just start with explaining the process of EFT tapping to the listeners, because I think a lot of people have heard it and they've sort of heard it called tapping and they've heard it called the emotional freedom techniques, but a lot of people actually don't know, what it's about, and often there's a fear factor with people when they really don't have something explained to them in logical terms. So I just wondered if you could start off today by just explaining the process of EFT tapping and what happens during a session.
Yeah, sure. So it's good to get it clear, isn't it? Because the clearer it is, the more likely people are going to give it a go. So, as you've already said, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it's commonly called tapping now, which is another great way of explaining it, because literally that's what we're doing, isn't it? We're actually tapping on the end points of our meridians in the body, and some people don't even know what meridians are. So I suppose when we really break it down, it's like our body's an electrical circuit, and we have energy flowing around, and that energy gets blocked by whether it's emotions, whether it's events in our life, whether it's pain in the body. Very similar to acupuncture. So a lot of people have heard of acupuncture, and it's the same principle, that we get these blocks in the body, and so it stops the flow around the body, which prevents you from feeling well and thinking better thoughts and being pain-free. So essentially what we're doing is we are tapping on an issue that we have, and we're engaging our mind, of course, because we're thinking it. And so when we're thinking it, the body starts to, it's almost like a little hook, the body starts to go, yeah, I know about that, and when I remember that event, it makes my tummy go funny. So we're kind of getting the body in tune to what we want to release. And then whilst we're in tune and whilst we're feeling that feeling, whether it's stress or fear, whether it's anxiety, anger, or whether it's literally a pain in the neck, we then basically start saying what we call an EFT affirmation, and we're actually tapping on the side of the hand here, which we call the karate chop point, because it's as if we're chopping a piece of wood. And that's our statement, isn't it, Julie? We're saying something very simply like, even though I have this stabbing headache, and the more specific the better. So we say, even though we've got the stabbing headache at the front of my head. And then we say the other affirmation, which is a bit tricky for some people. We say something like, we accept ourselves anyway, or we love ourselves anyway, or we accept that we don't accept ourselves. So there's lots of ways, aren't there, to say the statement, especially for newbies who are like, well, I don't accept myself, that's why I've got the problem. So we can be very creative. And we say this a couple of times. So we're basically saying what the issue is whilst we're tapping the side of the hand. And then we go around the points, the end points of the meridians, and we start with the top of the head. And we're tapping gently about 7 times at each point. So we're tapping top of the head, where the eyebrow begins, side of the eye, under the nose, the chin, around the collarbone, and under the arm. And that's the shortcut version. So that's often enough. And we take a breath in, we let it go, and then we reassess the feeling or the pain. And I should have said in the beginning, it's often helpful to rate our issue out of 10. So 10 being it's unbearable, and 0 being, well, I don't have a problem with this at all. So it gives us a gauge. We call that the SUDS, which is a subjective unit of discomfort. And it's a good one when you're first learning tapping on yourself, because you can reassess after you've done a few rounds. You go, oh, it was a 10, and now it's like a 6 or a 5. And so then you get the benefit of understanding, this really works. So that's very, very simply put, isn't it, how tapping works. And you can be very creative with it. You can do it in many, many different ways. But essentially we're tapping the side of the hand here whilst we're thinking and talking about a problem. And it can be something from the past, it can be something present, or it can be something in the future. And we tap pretty much on almost anything. You can try it on anything, but we always say be cautious on tapping on yourself when it's a big event or something traumatic for you. It's much better to do it with a practitioner or a friend who's very competent at tapping, because you can get lost, can't you? Especially when you're learning, you can kind of go all over the place, and it's helpful to have somebody be with you to guide you so you can effectively get to perhaps the core issue of what that problem is. So why you've got this constant headache, could be stress, could be anxiety, of course it could also be chemical, it could be something you're eating. But yes, it's very helpful to work certainly on big issues with somebody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that's in a nutshell, isn't it, how we use EFT. It's literally about energy that's stopped flowing around the body, often caused by certain things that have happened in our life, and we're kind of getting the energy flowing again. It's like we've got a kink in the pipe and we're unraveling that kink so we can let the flow happen again, and then we feel better and our lives start to feel more hopeful and happier. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Ali. I think one of the questions that I'm asked is, well, can I just use it on myself? And what I usually advise is that, certainly I know that you use it on yourself and I use it on myself. I think when you're first starting, it's great to have a session, and this is certainly not a sales call, but, I think it's a great idea to have a session just to really get into the rhythm of understanding what it's all about, find a practitioner. Also, what was I going to say? The question that people ask me is it effective? Is it as effective doing it on my own? Is it safe to do it on my own? And I agree with you. I think if it's a big trauma, I think if there's been, rape, or if you've been part of a natural disaster, or, something massive and life-threatening in your life, I definitely would advise that you don't do it on your own. Because I think that that you might have a reaction, and I don't want to scare anyone, but you might have a reaction that a qualified and experienced practitioner can lead you through that really gently and easily. But if you're sitting on your own at home, you might freak yourself out a little bit. You might want to retract and say, well, I don't want to go there. And this is where a good practitioner will just gently lead you through it. Are you ever asked in your sessions why we focus on the negative first?
Yes, a very good comment, because certainly when people are new to it and they're very sort of into their affirmations and things, it goes against every sort of bone, doesn't it? So again, the key principle behind the affirmations is, unless we're able to fully accept where we're at, whether that's pain in the body or the trauma of a diagnosis, unless we're able to go, okay, this is it, being present in the moment, it's hard to actually move forward. So saying that statement that does sound negative, because it's actually saying what it is, and I kind of say to my clients and my students that it's just like, if you look at it, there's a great opportunity to get all your dirty laundry on the table. It's like, whenever do you else really get the chance to do that, and also have some positive affirmation with the negative? And because it's kind of like a set formula with EFT, you kind of get into the mantra of it. So, for example, some people struggle with saying things at each point, saying, all this stress, all this anxiety, I feel terrible, I can't go on in life. And then they kind of question, they go, I'm going to feel worse if I'm saying all these things. But as we know, it's about encouraging people and saying, let's go with it. Let's say how it really is for you. And then, sure enough, as we know, a few rounds, could be 2 or 3 rounds, as minimal as that, there's a little bit of a shift, and we often call that a cognitive shift, where the person will say, well, actually, maybe not. Maybe there is a little bit more flow now, or maybe I just actually don't feel as stressed. I feel a little bit more relaxed. But it's very important, of course, to acknowledge exactly what's going on, and that's, I suppose, the perceived negative, but it's actually not negative at all, is it? That's just a judgment. It is what it is. And then once we've done a few rounds, of course, you can bring in the positive when it's time.
Definitely. I think it's interesting that I always say, whatever you're not addressing and whatever you're resisting, and we resist things in many ways in society. We we drink, we smoke, we watch too much TV, we spend too much time on the computer, etc., etc. All the behaviours that we have for pushing down pain, for not facing, what's bothering us. I always equate it to like a child. And when a child calls out mum and you don't answer it and you ignore it, and then they call out mum louder and louder and louder, and I equate that the same with this, is that if you don't listen and get rid of that stuff, it's just going to call out louder. It's going to show up as either a physical illness or some sort of block mentally for you that's really going to make you uncomfortable anyway. So it's really good to release it. And, I think the relief that you see on people's faces, because they've resisted it for so long. They go, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to feel, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to do this instead. And suddenly to go, you know what, I'm really listening to that part of me, my heart, that's really hurting. I'm listening to that part of me. I'm actually sitting with it. And it's not nearly as scary as people think, because as you said, it's so fast. It might take 5 minutes sometimes just to get it all out. Sometimes it takes longer.
Yes, I think this is one of the key elements, isn't it? And you do feel, or you witness when you're working with somebody else, exactly that relief of, oh my goodness, I've held this in my head for 30 years, I've dreamt about it, I've done this, and then finally, of course, this is what you can do in counselling, which is, a similar thing, isn't it? But we've got the additional tool, which is not just to talk and think again, which sometimes can be just re-traumatizing, but releasing with the stimulating of the meridian points. It's almost like the meridian's going, finally, we can shove this one along, and it's almost like that little bullets you can imagine little bullets in the flow around your body, and they're kind of churning along, and then suddenly they get this little shove, a loving, nurturing shove to go, finally over, finally move forward. And that's the beauty, isn't it? And that's the relief that you get also when you're working on yourself or with people, the sighing, the yawning. This is, some of the indicators that you're shifting, the shift in perception. Oh, it happened, it's over. I can move forward, or did I really think that way? You'll experience this, I'm sure, too, in your sessions, Julie, those beautiful moments of, there's something that's cleared.
When you see someone have a really massive yawn or a huge sigh, you could almost see them change physically. We've said this before. I was going to ask you, with EFT, do you have to believe in it? This is a question I get asked. Do you have to believe in it for it to work? Do you have to believe in this process? What if you're a bit of a cynic?
Yes, again, you don't. You don't have to believe it at all, because there's so much evidence now that it works, and it's not just placebo. What I will say on that, though, is I often work with people who, of course, are skeptical, and naturally you should be about lots of things. And there's creative ways if you're thinking about introducing it to a friend because it's worked so well for you, but you're thinking, they're sort of like think it's too weird and they're not going to believe it. I always make it fun. That first tapping round, I'll just have a laugh and just say something like, even though I think this is all a load of weirdo rubbish and I don't even know why I'm even doing it, I'm okay, maybe I'm okay anyway, and I make it light-hearted, and then we'll tap around the points just saying, this is so weird, I don't know what I'm doing, she's making me say all these weird things. And you find that, just with that, it can start to, have a bit of fun, and then there's a bit of intrigue. But another way also is, if people just, not believing it, I never force it on anybody at all. But the other thing is there's really nice ways of introducing it just with working with the breath, or working with something as simple as a craving for chocolate, or a pain that you might be feeling in discomfort, or just simply that it's, a relaxation technique, because if nothing else, it calms the nervous system down, doesn't it? But it's certainly, it doesn't appear, in all my experience over the years, that you actually have to believe in it at all, because it's actually quite a tangible, practical, physical thing that we're working with the body and the mind, with the stimulating of the meridians. Yeah. The win-win.
Do you think, yes, it is, isn't it? Do you think we should, just so people really get the idea of what we're doing, should we do a quick tapping round? Great.
Good idea. Absolutely. Let's do that.
Okay. Do you want me to be the person, or do you want, if I'm, okay, let me think of a problem.
If you got any
How about, I think a lot of women these days have a real sense of urgency that they're going to fit everything in. So should we
Oh,
just take,
good idea. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, yeah,
I'll be your echo if you say the words and I'll repeat it.
absolutely. Okay, so first we'll just take a nice big breath in, and we'll let it go. Okay, so we're going to start, like we said, with tapping on the side of the hand. Okay, and because with that sense of urgency in getting everything done, there's an element of stress, of course.
Mm.
So we'll just start with, I'll just ask you, just imagining today, Julie, you've got a lot on. Out of 10, how strong is that urgency for you now? If you imagine all these things you'd like to accomplish, 10 being, oh, I've got to get off this couch now and go and do it all.
Probably about an 8 because I'm going away and I'm trying to cram, 5 days work into 3. So
Great.
probably
About an 8. And when you say it's an 8, is there a feeling in the body with that? Do you have like any kind of discomfort in the body, or is it all in your head?
no, just things going round and round in my head.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just start and keep it really simple. So even though
Even though
I've got all these things going around in my head,
I've got all of these things going around in my head.
I'm going away.
I'm going away
I've got a lot to organise.
and I've got a lot to organise.
But I love and accept myself,
But I love and accept myself
even though
even though
I've got this sense of urgency.
I've got a sense of urgency.
I'm going away.
I'm going away.
I'm a woman. I've got loads to do.
I'm a woman, I've got loads to do.
I need to please everybody and get it all right.
I need to please everyone and get it all right.
But I love and accept myself,
And I love and accept myself,
even though I'm holding it all in my head.
even though I'm holding it all in my head. So everyone, we're still tapping on that fleshy part of the side of our hands where you do a karate chop point.
Yeah, and now we're going to start the routine. So we're going to go to the top of the head, and these are like the reminder points. So we're reminding our body to stay tuned in so we don't go floating off onto other things. And when we do that, it sometimes means you can get a bit lost in EFT. So we're just simply reminding ourselves. So we're just going to say this sense of urgency.
Sense of urgency.
And where the eyebrow begins, tapping gently. All these things I have to do.
All these things I have to do.
Now, side of the eye, I'm going away.
I'm going away.
I've got a lot that I need to pack in.
I've got a lot that I need to pack in.
That's it, under the eye. And I'm holding it all in my head.
And I'm holding it all in my head.
Under the nose, all these things I've got to do.
All these things I've got to do.
This endless list I hold in my head.
The endless list I hold in my head. See, I'm even trying to tap faster.
Yeah, that's it. It's a sign, isn't it? Tapping the chin, slowing it down. All this turbulence going around in my head.
All this turbulence going around in my head.
Tapping the collarbone. I haven't nearly finished what I've got to finish.
I haven't even started what half of the things I need to finish.
I haven't even started. Tapping under the arm. No wonder I've got all this turbulence, like a plane about to take off.
No wonder I've got all this turbulence like a plane about to take off.
But the plane's not even in the air yet.
The plane's not even in the air yet.
We're going to tap the ribs points. Actually, it's where the bra sits if you're a woman, or just under the nipple if you guys, just tapping around that point. I always say to my clients and students, this is a really good spot actually not to miss out, because it's good for the grief and stress, basically. This is where I tap sometimes if I'm stressed. So taking a breath in, Julie, and letting it out. We're just going to do a quick check-in. We've only done one round. I want you to just think about, again, all those things you've got to accomplish. You've not even started to get done. You're going away. Just notice if it's still a number 8, how much turbulence is in your head.
It's sort of shifted, and this is what often happens, everyone. This is funny doing this in front of people when it's yourself that's going through it at the same time. But it's shifted from sort of this low-level anxiety of, am I going to fit it all in? It's sort of shifted now. I actually feel a bit sad, and I don't really understand that. And I'm just bringing that up. It's hard being vulnerable in front of the people that are listening out there. But, you know, I do feel really sad, and I don't know why that is. And this often happens, guys, in sessions, doesn't it, Ali?
Yeah. It does. So let's go to the top of the head, Julie. This is a great opportunity to illustrate what's going. We don't need to do the side of the hand because she's just got it. There's an emotion there, and I'll explain after why we also do the side of the hand. But we're just going to say all this sadness.
All this sadness. It's not a lot of sadness. It's just some sadness. This sad.
This sadness.
Just moving down.
I don't know why that's come up.
I don't know why that's come up.
Under the eye, but I feel a little sad.
I feel a little sad.
Under the nose. This little bit of sadness.
This little bit of sadness.
Tapping the chin. Are you ready to let some of that sadness go? Would you like to choose peace instead?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I choose peace instead.
I'm choosing peace instead.
Tapping the collarbone. Maybe I'm going to be okay.
Maybe I'm going to be okay.
Maybe I'm going to get enough done that I need to get done.
Maybe I'm going to get enough done too. What was it?
Maybe I'm going to get enough done that I need to get done.
Maybe I'm going to get enough done that I need to get done.
Tapping the ribs. Maybe I'm okay right now.
Maybe I'm okay right now.
I am okay right now.
I am okay right now.
I'm letting go of the sadness.
Letting go of the sadness.
And choosing peace instead.
And choosing peace instead.
And a nice big breath in. And let it go. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. I interrupt you all the time, Ellie. It's hard because there's a bit of a delay that people don't realise when they're watching the end product. But it's really interesting. I felt this real kindness towards myself in that second round. Isn't that funny? It's like almost the sadness was attached to just, you know, being so hard on myself. And it was just like I felt real compassion in that second round. It's like, you're doing okay, you know, you really are. You're doing your best. That's all that matters, darling. And I could sort of hear my self-talk change. And this is the beauty, I think, of EFT. It's so subtle, but it's so massive in its repercussions. So now I actually feel quite tender towards myself without sounding, you know, like I've got tickets on myself. But I feel quite tender, and I think, you know what? You're doing your best. It's okay, darling. You know, so it's changed from that uptight, oh, you never do this and you always do that and you leave this to the last minute and blah, blah, blah. It's actually changed my demeanour into just feeling so much calmer. Thanks, Ali.
Oh, you know, that's great. And thanks for me letting you guide you. And yeah, I don't really need to say any more there. It can be that simple, and it doesn't have to always be complicated. And it really illustrates so well that just a little round of tapping on yourself, saying your own words, and I'm always aware of saying the other person's words as much as possible. Sometimes you throw in something funny and it lands really well, but you know, that's pretty much your wording, and yeah, it can be really, really simple, and just shift that little thing that just allows you to set your day up as well, because it's so good to set your day up with a quick round of tapping. I actually do it on the loo, I do it in the shower, I do it in the park. I mean, people always laugh at me when I talk to them about where I do it. I just think it doesn't always have to be this big, long, convoluted thing. And I say to people, if you're really stressed, go straight to the top of the head and just tap around the point saying you're stressed, stress, stress, stress. And then throwing in words like choose to feel safe and calm and, you know, at peace. And it can be really that quick instead of thinking, oh, she says this, she says that. That's where most people prevent themselves from going forward with EFT, because they have a session with somebody or they see people on the internet with all this stuff, and then I think just keep it simple, say what's on your mind whilst you're tapping, and just go with the flow of literally what you're saying and keeping tuned in with each emotion as it comes up, really.
Absolutely. I totally agree. People stop themselves from doing it because they don't think they're going to do it right, in inverted commas. And the thing is that all you're doing is focusing on what's going on for you. And it's really good to be sort of a bit more specific. So I just encourage people to pretend they're having a rant to their best friend, you know.
Yeah.
do you know what she said to me? You know, so tapping on the top of the head, you know what she said to me? She said that. I'd never speak to her like that. I just feel so terrible. I just want to ring her up. I feel really angry, you know. So all of those things that you'd have a whinge about, you're just doing that to yourself, and that's going to keep your body well and truly focused on, you know, what's happening, which means that you can release all those feelings. Yeah, I hope this has been, you know, helpful for people, Ali. And as we've discussed before, you know, they can either go to your website or my website, so that's happysoul.com and trulymadlydeeplyhappy.com. And on both of those sites, we've got tapping instructions, totally free. You don't need to sign up for anything. Just go and check it out and see, you know, just have an experiment with it. I mean, there's nothing to lose, really, is there? You might be quite surprised how simple it is. And I think we tend to complicate things, don't we?
I think we do. I think we do indeed. And it really is. It can be a very realistic thing to bring into your day. When you let go of this feeling that it has to be complicated. And obviously saying that, there's some issues that you'll need persistence, you'll need several sessions, you will need to work with a practitioner or somebody experienced. But for that maintenance, dealing with the day-to-day life stuff, it's just amazing, isn't it? To just have that quick, a little bit of magic at your fingertips that you can just begin to acknowledge and release.
That's what it is. It's the stimulation of those meridian points that makes all the difference. I mean, you can be at work or something. Well, I work at home, but say if you're in an office situation and, you know, things are getting too much, somebody's pushing your buttons or whatever, you can go and sit in a park for 5 minutes, but it's not the same as tapping. You know, take yourself from that situation, but there is something magical that happens when you're just tapping. My favourite point's here under my collarbone, and I can just sit there, and even if people are watching, I'll just sort of sit there and just press like I'm rubbing it. It's still as effective, and I'll just be thinking all of these things to myself inside, like, you know, I want to smack this person. And I have all this anger, and I'm choosing peace, and I take a big breath, you know. I'll just find that I did that big, oh, well, it's just how it is.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? And yours is here, and I do this one too. And I also find another really good one, Julie, is, you know, especially like you say, if somebody's in a place where they're embarrassed about tapping, is to literally just squeeze the fingers. Like, so all we're doing is squeezing the fingers here, because you can also tap on the fingers. And I find that people I do this quite a lot, and it's just instantly very calming to just do this, and nobody really knows what you're doing. You can have your hands under the table. And the other thing I really like about it is that every time you do tapping, or every time you do any kind of activity that is stimulating the meridians, you're reinforcing to yourself that you care about yourself. So it's almost like the neural pathways are just continually opening up new ways of being. And then it's almost like it's just automatic. So as soon as I start to do this, my mind goes, she's doing that, she's taking care of herself again. And it's almost like a double hit of goodness, because it's like, okay. So all these little things. It's, of course, meditation and positive thinking and eating and all those things we've talked about before. Your whole environment is important. But this is a real magical tool that both Julie and I are incredibly passionate about.
They never would have guessed, would they?
No.
Have you got anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up today?
Oh, I think that's good. I think another time perhaps we could just highlight the difference between matrix re-imprinting and EFT, but I think that's good enough today.
Yeah,
and we've been clear. Yeah.
Okay, everyone. So this is us signing off. Ali?
Thank you very much, Julie. I really, really enjoy our On the Couch sessions. It's great, and we truly hope that you're really getting something out of it too. And don't forget, if you want to contact us or leave any comments below, just to, so I suppose it gives other people sort of encouragement, doesn't it, to go, okay, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah. And share if you're enjoying it and you're finding it interesting, and you've got that sort of open mind. You know, feel free to share it with your friends on social media, because it's good to reach out as many people as we can. You know, because there's a lot of people in strife out there, so that'd be great if you could do that. Okay, guys, well, we'll see you next time. This is Julie Zommers signing off from On the Couch with Ali Monaghan. Thanks, Ali.
Bye.